Welcome. We are continuing in Sefer Halikutim of the Tzemach Tzedek, and we're in the current issue. In the book, we're on page Tov Kuf Tes. That would be page 509, Tov Kuf Tes, and it's the volume that has some of Ois Aleph, because we're in the one that Umot haOlam, the nations of the world. And we did the first paragraph, the first piece last week, and that brings us to the second piece. And just again to remind you that this was put together by a group of students of the Lubavitch Yeshiva 770, roughly between years 1977 and 1982. It's a compilation of Chassidus of the Tzemach Tzedek in alphabetical order. Most of it is taken from his series of Or HaTorah, but it of course includes everything, including Derech Mitzveisecha. And at the end of each piece, in the parentheses, it tells you exactly where it's from, which book, and which pages, etc. So we are in the middle of discussing Umot haOlam, the nations of the world, their comprehension of godliness, and what is their understanding of hashgacha, of the divine providence. So middle of page Tov Kuf Tes. Es Hashem he'emarto hayoim chuli, v'Hashem he'emircha hayoim chuli. This is a direct quote from Parshas Ki Savoy in the book of Devarim. That would be Deuteronomy chapter 26, where over there Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking on behalf of Hashem to the Jewish people, specifically, exclusively. And he's saying to the Jews, you have chosen Hashem on this day, and Hashem has chosen you. Okay, it's an interesting word, Hemarta and Hemircha, but basically that's what it means, that the Jewish people choose Hashem, and Hashem chooses them. So that's the verse. Ubegemara brachos daf vav amud aleph. And in Gemara, the Talmud, tractate brachos, page 6, side A. So 6A in brachos. Uva chagiga daf gimel amud aleph. And likewise, the exact same statement is made in the Gemara in tractate Chagiga on 3A. Darshu al pasuk zeh, based on this pasuk that we just quoted, again, that Hashem you have chosen and Hashem has chosen you, they learn out from this verse Tefillin demare alma maksiv behu. That's some Aramaic there. The Turen of the master of the universe is written in his tefillin. In other words, the Gemara there says, metaphorically, of course, that just as Hashem gives the Jewish people the mitzvah of tefillin, the phylacteries, whatever that means, that we put on these leather boxes with scrolls inside on the upper left arm and on top of the head. So it says that Hashem himself also puts on tefillin. But then the Gemara asks, what does it say in his tefillin? And the Gemara brings a verse. We ke'am Israel, and who is like your nation, the Jews? Goy echad ba'aretz. One, meaning unique, special, the one and only special nation on earth. In other words, we'll explain it momentarily. Omar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem, the Almighty, blessed be He, the Holy One, blessed be He, says to them, Yisrael, to the Jews, Atem, you folks, asisuni, make me, this is Hashem, so to say, pleading or instructing the Jewish people, make me, ativa achas ba'olam, one chunk, as it were, one piece, make me unique on earth, in the world. Where do we find that the Jewish people make Hashem one on earth? Because the verse says, and then we quote, of course, the very famous verse, Shema Yisrael, listen, Israel, Hashem, Elokeinu, Hashem. Hashem is our Hashem, and Hashem is one, the one and only. Okay, so that's what we do. We make that declaration, or in this context, in our tefillin, in the Jewish people's tefillin, we have that verse written there that says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So we're declaring in our tefillin that Hashem is the one and only. Va'ani, and then Hashem continues and tells the Jewish people, and I, will make eschem, you folks, chativa achas haOlam, one piece, one special chunk, one unit in the world. You know, you guys make me one in the world, and I'll make you one in the world. Shenemar, as the verse states, Umi ke'amcha Yisrael, and who is like your nation Israel, goy echad ba'aretz, nation on earth. In other words, we find the word echad, which means one, or in this context, the one and only special one. Both you're describing Hashem and the Jewish people. So it's like the Jewish people are saying about Hashem, you are Hashem echad. And then he says about the Jewish people, you are the goy echad. V'hu, and that is the meaning, as Hashem emarta chuli, you, the Jewish people, have chosen Hashem, chativa achas chuli, as one entity, v'Hashem ha'ircha, and Hashem has chosen you, etc., chativa, one entity. Okay, that is basically what the Gemara says. Okay. Upish Rashi, and Rashi, the main commentator, he interprets, he explains, he'emarta. What is this word? It's an unusual word in Tanakh. What does the word he'emarta mean in that verse? L'shoin shevach v'chashivus. Says Rashi, it's an expression of praise and importance. Somehow that word, the root of the word, he'emarta or he'emircha, is an expression. Rashi is explaining, translating the word. It means praise. K'moi, and he brings, as he very often does, he brings a proof text to show how this word means praise and importance, because we find a different verse that says, Yisamru, again the same root. Yisamru, they will, whatever hamarta means. Kol poyale oven, all those that do iniquities or inappropriates or sins. Yishtabchu shedarchan slecha, meaning they are going to have self-praise. Sinners, this verse is saying, are going to think that they will be successful. So poyale oven are people that do what's wrong, and the words yisamru, the people that do what's wrong are going to be yisamru, meaning they will think they're praising themselves as being, they will be successful. So that's the proof text, or the support, that this word hamarta, hamircha, means to praise. Chativa achas, shevach echad. What is chativa achas? One piece, one chunk, one entity. So he says one praise. Shevach miyuchad, a special praise. Loimar, to say, Ein moicha. There's none like you. No one can compare to you. Therefore, we have chosen you to be our God, because none can compare to you. Okay, so far that's basically the Gemara with Rashi. Now, explains the Tzemach Tzedek. Uperush le'loika. What does it mean when he says for a God that we have chosen you to be for us, for a leika? Hu mashpia koyach v'chayus alikus. That means to give a flow, to give energy of strength and godly life, godly vitality and energy. That's what we need about the Jewish people, that we choose Hashem, Hashem chooses us. What's this praise? What's this choice? That the Jewish people receive from Hashem godly koyach v'chayus, strength and life. Hey, the opposite, umos haOlam, of nations of the world. Shekaru lei, for they call him, referring to a different statement in the Talmud. The nations of the world refer to Hashem, Elokah del Haya, that he is the God of gods. That's in a different Gemara, which Tzemach Tzedek is not referencing where it is, although he usually does make references. But at the bottom, the editors added, that it's at the end, tractate Menachos. That's at the bottom of the page. They're telling where it's. So at the tractate, it says that the nations of the world do not deny the existence of Hashem. What they do is they call him the God of gods. Meaning, who are the ones that give them and the world strength and life? Others. The stars, constellations, the ayin sarim, and the 70 spiritual ministering angels. There's 70 nations, so every nation has its spiritual malach, the angel. So that's how all of the godly energy and flow of life and everything comes through stars, constellations, and these 70 ministering officers, angels, etc. The who and he, the Almighty himself, Eloka, the Elokaya. He is the God of all of these godly forces. Okay, so big difference between the philosophy, the belief of the Jewish people and that of the world at large, of the Umot haOlam, the nations of the world. Ki Umot haOlam oimrim, because the nations of the world say, this is their attitude, and it's a pasuk, it's a verse. Ram al kol goyim chuli, that exalted over all the nations, etc. Etc. is Hashem. It says Ram al kol goyim Hashem, that Hashem is above and exalted, way above all of the nations. Al shamayim k'vidoi chuli. The heavens is his glory. In other words, he's not down here. He created everything. He set everything into motion. He made every deal, but he's not here. It's beneath dignity. He appointed all sorts of entities to bring down life and strength and all that, and he is the super duper boss above all these little gods, or all these big gods. He's the God of gods. That's their Lefi Usam, according to their make. Let's not make a mistake. The nations of the world have a tongue. So now Tzemach Tzedek says, Lefi Usam, according to their mistake, Shesoirim, they think, they means they intellectually are into this idea. Svara is a logical thought. So think that the creation worlds Uderechla ve'alu is the way of cause and effect. That the whole system of the down chain of creation, they look at it as a spiritual evolution, cause and effect. The whole law and every law, which is the cause is enclosed in its product, the effect. Like this is part we discussed last time. The yesh shinui beha'ila, and there's a change. There absolutely is, by definition, a change in the cause. When includes itself to become the one that's creating, the one that's influencing, the one that's giving the flow of energy. That causes a change in the giver. Based on that philosophy, that correct approach, the give the flow of energy, of godly energy, to give life to the world, in a way of cause effect, ad hashpoas gashmius, to the extent that it ultimately gets all the way down to the body, which is giving life to this physical world, as opposed to the spiritual worlds. So it gives life to physical world. Dascham, which is an acronym for doimim, soimeyach, chai, midaber. The four categories of everything. Doim is inanimate, things that don't have, say, life in the sense of growing, like stones, etc. Soimeyach is the world of vegetation, things that grow out of the ground, all trees, grass, everything. Chai, living beings, animals, mammals, and like that. Medaber is human, which is separate from chai. So human, and then medaber is the one that speaks, like talk, would be the human. Asiya Gashmius, in this is a world of this. In other words, as you know, there are many levels of down chain of worlds. In general, we divide it up to 4 worlds. Atzilus, the highest of worlds, which called Atzilus, which in English they translate as the world of emanation. Then you come to Bria, creation. Then Yetzira, formation. And then you have the spiritual world of Asiya. And then, after all that, you finally come to the physical world, which includes all of the galaxies, everything that we know as far as outer space can go, but all of that physics, all the planets, all the galaxies, and of course, this world as well. So that's called Asiya Hagashmius, or Basiya Gashmius. So Huyirida Gedoyla. So this whole down chain is a tremendous descent. The Hashpala, and it's a lowering in the sense, in a negative way. It's a the word I'm looking for. A negative degrading. It's literally degrading, right? That's the word actually. It's literally degrading. Lelikusis barech, for the godliness of the Holy One, blessed be He. Lihislabesh, for Him to enclose Himself. Ulahashpia, and to give a flow of godly energy, gashmius, into physicality. That is degrading for Him. The yesh shinui b'ha'ilachuli, and by definition, there's a change in the one giving. So if you're stuck, either you're going to say that Hashem changes and is affected by creation, which we don't want to say that. So your other choice would be, okay, then he's not actually coming down, and it's not directly, personally, so to say, from him. It's that he appointed all of these powers to be able to give it. That's the logic of why they don't want to say that he himself is enclosed in the physical world. Okay, so that is their understanding of how life comes from Hashem, in a way of cause and effect, and that means that the causer gets affected by the effect because it changes him and it makes a difference to him. And beforehand, he this level did not make this, and now it did. So that's difference. If someone becomes an accomplished something, so he's accomplished. So if you build something that made a change in you, in your personality, in your feeling, in your heart, if somebody took on a project and they did it, so now they are a different person than beforehand. Whether they composed a piece of music, whether they made a piece of art, whether they constructed a building, whatever it may be, intellectual, emotional, whatever they made, when someone makes something, that now makes them a different person. And therefore, they're affected by what they did. So they don't want to say that about Hashem. So therefore, we're saying that it's cause and effect, but it can't be that Hashem is the cause. He's the ultimate, but he made all these things, put them into place, and therefore the spiritual downshift, and then there's all stars and constellations and all that. They're the causers, and I have a problem saying that they get affected. It's okay as long as we're not talking about Hashem himself. So that's their mistaken philosophy. V'chein, likewise, 5 on the bottom. V'chein ha'ashgacha pratis. So too, these particular supervision, which we call the providence, detailed, specific, divine providence, Chol birya uvriya, on every single created entity, bifnei atzma, individually, every single individual molecule, or get down even whatever, who hashpola gedoyla is a great degrading, one of you spark before him be. So say that he is actually supervising and orchestrating every single blade of grass, every single grain of sand on the planet is degrading. To say that he is involved and that he is supervising every single thing. L'chein oimrim, therefore he said, Alamayim kivoy. His honor, his glory is heaven, up there, not in a physical realm. And then they say, the Av Hashem Esaretz, and that Hashem has actually left the world, earth. He created it, but then he pulled away and he says, I set it into motion, that's it. I wound the clock, whatever, all the different parables you want to give of a teacher who gave the tools to the student, the instructor who taught the people how to do it, but not to say that he's involved. This person, the greatest professor, the greatest mind, who stands all these things, and he explained to you plumbing in a way that every detail is perfect. You want to tell me how he's going to crawl under the sink or into the toilet? No, that's not for that. He made you guys. For that, he needs thousands of professional plumbers so they know how to do the job. But if you imagine and say, well, the guy invented all of this, we're going to call him to do it for us. That's degrading. That's disrespectful. So there, he left it. He sent a motion. He invented it. He put it there, and added all the pieces there, and then he pulls over. And where did he didn't have in Sarim Umalis, in the hand of the 70 ministry angels, as we said, and in the constellation. They're the ones that are giving the flow of energy. They're the ones that are orchestrating, leading, conducting, running the world. So the world is being run by these spiritual forces that were created by Hashem. And that is the meaning of the two words that the Gemara uses, that the attitude of the Goyim is Elokaya. So we just, the whole paragraph explaining what they mean. So Tzemach Tzedek being pretty elaborate on explaining the wrong opinion and philosophy and belief. This is basically, we just described the belief of the nations of the world. This is called the Elokaya. They do not deny Hashem. He is the God of gods. And by gods, we mean this energy, this spiritual or godly energy to make exist and live and so forth. However, Yisrael, people, the Jewish nation, what do they say? Mi kava Elokeinu, who, rhetorically, who is like Yud-Kei Vav-Kei Hashem, our God, Hamabi Shaves, who uplifts and raises to dwell, to sit, Hamashpili, who comes down and lowers himself, Liros Bashamayim Muvaretz Chuli, see in heavens and on earth. That's the verse. Perush explains Tzemach Tzedek. What's the meaning of the verse? Mipnei, because Shehu Magbi Bashav, because he's so high and he uplifts the well. Therefore, Shamayim Heim Olam Heavens, which in general a reference to the upper worlds. See, when we say Shamayim, depending on the context, sometimes it could mean the physical sky, or sometimes, usually in this context, it would refer to the spiritual worlds of above. So here, when it says Shamayim va'aretz, we mean the spiritual world as opposed to the physical world. But this physical world, of course, includes the whole atmosphere and the entire outer space. That's all part of aretz, part of earth. So Shamayim, which is the upper worlds, Ruchniim, spiritual world, the aretz, and what is the meaning when it says in this verse? Aretz, land. haOlam is tachtoinim. That's the lower worlds. The gashmim and the physical, which would include all the galaxies as far as we know and beyond in outer space. All of that is called the lower worlds. That's the physical. So both the spiritual worlds and the physical lower worlds, Shavin lefav yisbarech, are equal. Shavin means plural for shaveh, which means equal, are equal before and blessed be he. There's no difference for him. Ki brias ha'olos, for the creation of the worlds, loy al derech hishalshalus ila ve'olul, is not in a way of the down chain of the evolution of cause and effect. You know, that's really the root of the mistake. Do you look at creation as cause and effect or not? And if not, then what? Yeah. So it's not in a way of cause and effect, and therefore it's not that we are a product of something higher than us in anything other than Hashem himself. And now he explains how it works logically. Shafilu, for even, if there would be an enormous amount of downchain, of evolution, of cause and effect, all would be b'chinas bitul b'mitzius. They would be in a way of absolute non-existence. They would be completely nullified, and they would not exist. In the infinite light of Hashem himself. So there can't be anything outside of Hashem, and therefore, if it were to be cause and effect, no matter how many levels, millions, billions, it doesn't matter. If that's how it would be, they would all be non-existent. And they would not come into existence and be formed bivchinas bal gvul, in a form of being a limited entity, v'yesh, or being something of substance, v'davar nifrad chuli, and a separate entity from him. In other words, at least our perspective, worlds were created. And that's where, of course, we get into the whole paradox of, is there only Hashem, or did he actually create? So from our perspective, where we are, here we are as separate entities, and we don't feel we are dependent on him. At best, intellectually, we understand that there has to be the creator, etc. You don't feel that. By nature, when a baby is born, they don't feel that there must be a creator. No, there's me. So how can you get to such a thing? How can there be an entity, which there obviously is? Or how can you have to just bring it out in extreme terms? You can have very intellectual individuals that are atheists. So that's pretty interesting. Intellectual thinkers that are atheists. So you can have different explanations as to why it's such, but forget about the reason, forget about the explanation. The very fact that you can have smart, intellectual, thinking people that are atheists, that's pretty incredible. So how did that come to be? It can't be by a cause and effect, because cause and effect, you'd never have any entity like this physical world that seems to be separate from the creator. Ella, so how do we get to this product? How did we get here? Brias haOlam, the creation of all worlds, nishavu, came into existence, bivchinas yesh me'ayin. So we're introducing a new thing here. The concept of, and again, as they translate it in Latin, because I guess it sounds too cheap in English, so they say ex nihilo, which probably just means something from nothing. So that's how it is. Creation is this quantum leap from non-existence, because all there is Hashem, so there's nothing, and then all of a sudden, poof, he made creation. So it's not cause and effect. And it's not that, well, if you go down enough, you're going to get to this. No, you can go down infinite levels, make infinite contractions and concealments and cause and effect and create another world. You're never going to get to this physical world. So it's not, so basically the crux of the mistake is, do we view creation as cause and effect, Ila va'alul, or yesh me'ayin? So the nations of the world mistakenly view it as Ila va'alul, cause and effect. And Yisrael correctly views it as yesh me'ayin, something from, so to say, nothing. V'hu mi bechinas he'ara be'alma. Now, what does this mean? What is yesh me'ayin? So it's just a little ray, a little bit of light, me'ar ein sof, from the infinite light of Hashem himself. Ve'al yedei tzimtzum shehaya beha'or. And it's through the tzimtzum, the contraction, that took place in the light. But shekasu be'etz chayim, as it says in the book called Eitz Chaim, which is from Reb Chaim Vital. This is the teachings of the Arizal. V'kamei yisparech, and before him, blessed be he, from his perspective, in his presence, Atzilus va'asiya, the high world of Atzilus and the physical world, Shavin, are equal, behashva achas, with one equality. They're absolutely the same. Now again, not that we can really understand Atzilus, but just to give you a little bit of an appreciation of how high this divine world of Atzilus is, the Alter Rebbe, it says, when he would say Chasidus, when he would speak Chasidus, when he spoke about Atzilus, he didn't use the word Atzilus. He said in Yiddish, up there. When he said up there, that was like a code that they knew, that was like his way of referring to Atzilus. Now, it's not because Atzilus is a holy name of Hashem and he didn't want to pronounce it. No, Atzilus is not one of Hashem's names. There's nothing wrong with saying it. And I could say it from today until tomorrow. But he lived it. He actually knew what that is, the world of Atzilus. So he couldn't bring himself to just say it. And in writing, when he would write Chasidus, so it says he couldn't write more than half the word out of tremendous emotion. So he never spelled the whole word out. He would write first three letters, Aleph, Tzadik, Yud, and then just stop there. Again, not because it's so holy and he didn't want to write it, it's because he was so emotional when he wrote that word, he just couldn't bring himself to go further. So that's the world of Atzilus, the world of emanation. That's higher than the world of Bria. That's like so high. That and the physical world that we're in, where you can have intellectual atheists walking around and you can have evil, are absolutely equal. Okay, so it's a very extreme, deep thing to say, because Atzilus, you would say, oh, that's like really close to Hashem himself, and Atzilus is really just a manifestation of Hashem. It's a revelation of that which is beyond. Atzilus and this physical world are absolutely equal. V'ein poyalim boy, and the worlds do not affect him, they don't accomplish in him, shum shinui, chas v'shalom, any change whatsoever. Because we said cause and effect, by definition, it has to cause a change in the producer, in the manufacturer, right? Like we said, music, art, whatever it may be. All of the worlds mean absolutely nothing, and they don't make any change in the creator. As the verse states clearly, and this verse is quoted very many times in Chassidus, Ani Havaya, I, Hashem himself, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Loi Shonisi, Chuli, have not changed. I don't change from before creation to after creation, from before time and space to after time and space, etc. Ukmoi Kain, and likewise, Bahashkachasa Yisbarich, in his hashkacha, his supervising everything, Al Kol Birya Bifrat, on every created entity in detail, every single one, not just big things or the type, people, category, animals. No. Every single detail. K'ma'amar Razal, like the statement of our rabbis, the sages of blessed memory, Sheber Rosh Hashanah, that on Rosh Hashanah, Kol Ba'ei haOlam. This is a Mishnah. Okay, all of the inhabitants of the world, Oivrin lefanav, pass before him, Kivnei Marein Chuli, like a flock of sheep. Every single human being on Rosh Hashanah, one by one, every one of them, no matter how many billions they are, on Rosh Hashanah, pass in front of Hashem. And nonetheless, at the same exact time, Niskarim Kulam, they're all flashed or overseen, biskira achas, with one look. It's like a camera that snapped a shot and got everything, every person with every single detail of his. So on the one hand, we say every single individual passes by him. And if you're going to say, well, how could that be? If there's so-and-so billion people in the world and there's only so many hours on Rosh Hashanah, how could that be? Do the math. It's not like that. Every single individual, and at the same time, all of them, everybody in one flash, one blink of an eye. As the verse says, hayoitzer yachad libam chuli. He forms all together their heart. So every individual has their own life, their own feelings, their own heart. No two people share the exact same. And yet, he makes them all yachad, together. So it's no contradiction. Ve'echu zeh, and how is this so? V'hu kimayim razal. Well, the answer to that, it's like another statement of our sages of blessed memory. Golui v'yodua chuli. It is revealed and known before him. Mimela ume'elav. So to say, automatically, it's naturally known to him. His knowledge is not an acquired knowledge. It's not like the human being. There's a concept and there's the knower. I need to understand something. Now that I understand it, I took ownership. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear
Sorry.
you.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So by Hashem, his knowing everything is automatic. It's absolutely unlike the knowledge of man. Because when a person knows something, so they enclose themselves in the concept in order to know it. See, 1 + 1 = 2. Even if nobody on earth would know that, and even if no being would understand that, and if suddenly everybody forgot that concept, that truth remains a truth. It's not true because we know it. We know it because it's true. First, there is this logic that 1 + 1 = 2. And now, since that's very simple to understand and to prove and to grasp, so therefore everybody gets it. That's how it works with man. There's truths, there's information, there's concepts, there's knowledge, and then we can wrap our minds around it and grasp it. By Hashem, it doesn't work that way. By Hashem, it is so because he knows it. And then the Rambam says that's impossible for us to understand, so we could just say those words. We can't even say it. We're just saying words that don't make any sense. But he, blessed be he, kadosh umuvdal. He is separate. The word kadosh is normally translated as holy, but what does that mean? It means in Lashon HaKodesh, the word Kadosh really means separate, which usually is in a positive sense, but we even have it used in a negative way. Okay, for example, a harlot is called a Kedesha. So that's negative. I mean, something or someone designated for something no good. But usually we use the word Kadosh as sacred, and that means to say separated from mundane. So Hashem is separate from this type of knowledge or this type of understanding that humans have. As explained elsewhere, beperush, in the interpretation and the meaning of the verse, kiloi machshavoisai machshavoiseichem chuli. So the prophet Yeshaya says that in the name of Hashem, Hashem says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. Shemachshavtei shel ha'adam, because the thought of man, malbeshes haneshama umakifa, encloses the soul and encompasses it. So our mind, our thought, takes hold and grasps and relates to our soul. But that's not the way it is with him. By him, blessed be he, it's not so. For my thoughts are not like yours. We can't say, it's impossible to say, that his thought, malbeshes are in Sof Baruch Hu, and clothes the infinite light of Hashem. In other words, just like a Jew has a neshama, which is a piece of Hashem, so the big real one is Hashem himself. So our thought envelops our neshama. So you would say, okay, then his thought envelops his infinite light. No, not at all. Delays machshava tfisa beklal, because it says no thought, not even godly thought, no thought grasps him at all. So the system is not the same. We're a created entity, and we work in a certain way, the way he wired us. He does not work like that. So there's no such thing as any thought grasping him. And when we say no thought, you may say, well, that means no human can ultimately grasp him. He says, no, afilu machshava da'ak, even the thought of ak. Ak is an acronym. It stands for Adam Kadma'a, which is an extremely high level, Kabbalistically, of the pre-mortal or within the divine, preceding everything. So even on that level, okay, where it has a thought, and it says that over there is where everything is predetermined. All of the hashkacha pratis, the divine providence, way before time and space, everything goes back to there. So even there, it's a thought, it's machshava, it's the godly thought. Shenishave gamkein, that also came into existence. Al yedei tzimtzum ha'or tchila chuli, like we said before, through contracting the light of Hashem, that early first contraction, that's how you get to this thought of the level of ak. So that too is not his very essence, even though it's so super high. So it's called a thought. Even that thought can't grasp his essence. V'hu inyan hashevach, and this is the praise that we're talking about. Ein kamoicha. When we say there's none like you, we don't mean no God can compare to you. We don't mean you're greater and stronger than any other entity. We literally mean there's none like you. Shekol haOlamais, for all the worlds, no matter how high. Ein aroich elav yisbarech, are literally incomparable to him. The kamei, and before him, shavin, are equal. Atzilus, like we said, the highest world. Va'asiya, and the lowest physical world of our world. Va'ashva achas, one exact equal, no difference before him. And as it's stated in the Zohar, Shashevach Mikel Kamoicha, that this praise that we say, who is like you, Hashem, Be'atik Yoimin Itmar. That praise is referring to the level of Atik Yoimin, which is another Kabbalistic level. I mean, it's based on a verse in the book of Daniel. That's where we first find it. But it's literally translates as the ancient one of days, the old one. And that is within Keser. That's the deeper level of the inner level of Keser. Itmar. That's where we say Mikael Kamoicha, on that level. Peirush, meaning, says the Tzemach Tzedek, Atik Yoimin Hainu, meaning to say, Hamisnase, that is above and exalted, Mimois Oilam, from always, or from the days of the world, from any level of time and space in any way, shape, or form. Ki Atik, because the word Atik, which the simple translation is ancient, but this word Atik, Miloshain comes from the term Hamatik Harim, who uproots and removes mountains, Chuli, etc. Kloimar, meaning to say, Shenetak, that it is detached. In 1 minute?
1 minute, okay, go.
Shenetak, that it is detached. Umeroimam, and exalted, mibchinas yimais olam, from this whole aspect of days of the world, no matter what world you're talking about. So Atik is above and beyond any type of creation of world. Fihu inyan, and that's the idea, mipnei, why is it so? Because shemagbi lashaves, like the verse we brought down in the beginning, that he elevates to dwell. B'chinas roimimus, this idea of exalted, to Or Ein Sof, of the infinite light. Lachein, therefore, hamashpil lirais b'shamayim u'va'aretz. That's why the verse continues and says that he lowers himself to see in heavens and earth, in the spiritual, in Atzilus, and down here in the physical. Sheshneim shavin lefanav yisbarich, that they are both absolutely equal. So now you go back and you read that verse from Tehillim, from Psalms, which is in the Hallel. So that's what it's saying, that because he is Magbi Lashaves, because he's so exalted, particularly and specifically because of that, he then, so to say, lowers himself, and there's nothing which is too degrading for him, and he is involved directly in everything. Okay, so this is taken, as it says in the parentheses, from the Tzemach Tzedek's writings in his Orat Torah on Parshas Tavoy, and it gives you the pages, etc. So that is pretty heavy, explaining the difference between the approach of the nations of the world and of Yisrael.
Thank you, Rabbi Turen. I'm going to have to review that.
Oh, yeah, Vey, I'm so sorry. You have a class now you're running late to.
I do. My classmates are like, "What's going on?" It's cool though. We'll get into the flow of it and everything. It'll work.
Okay,
out.
I'm gonna try to end by 8 o'clock. I'm sorry, or by your time 9 o'clock.
Thank
Okay,
you.
all the best.
Wonderful. All the best. Be well, everyone. Thank you, Rabbi.
Sure.
Take care, Chaim.